friends, it's Katie from Lady Red Crafting. Welcome if you're new, and welcome back if you've crafted with me before. Today's cozy inspirations include pumpkins, acorns, fabric, yarn, and a bonus sweet treat that you won't want to miss. So let's get started. So these orange pumpkins at the Dollar Tree are definitely a staple, and I had some in my stash that, well, have seen better days, but instead of throwing them away, I am going to go ahead and remake this pumpkin. To start out, I'm going to pour some baking soda into a little bowl here and a little bit of my Waverly chalk paint in the color moss. And this is about a 1-to-1 ratio. It's not quite perfect, but you know what? That's okay. We're going to take a little brush and just mix that in together. Now, once that is mixed in together, it should be a really thick paste. And now we're just going to take that and paint our pumpkin. This paint, since it is thick, is going to fill in some of those holes in our pumpkin. And it's also going to give it a really nice texture. It's going to look a lot like concrete. And once I got to a point that I couldn't paint any more of the pumpkin without getting really messy, I went ahead and I just wrapped my brush and my paint up for about an hour until the other paint dried. And then I'm going to come back in, flip my pumpkin over, and finish painting. Now, once this has dried, we could just add a stem and be done with our little pumpkin. But I did want to make this one a little more cozy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this lace trim that I found at Walmart, and I'm going to add that to our pumpkin. I'm not going to add it to the whole entire pumpkin, but I am going to add 3 strips of this lace to our pumpkin. So to start out, I do want to measure my lace, and I'm going to just take that and wrap that around our pumpkin, and I'm going to let it overlap by about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. Then we're going to cut our piece of lace and then repeat the same step for the next 2 pieces. And I found that it was really easy to just lay this lace out and then cut 2 additional strips. Now let's start by adding our first lace strip. I'm going to lay the pumpkin right in the center of the strip, and then I'm going to take both ends of the lace and I'm just going to stuff that right into the hole that's at the top of this pumpkin. Next, I'm going to go ahead and take the 2 strips that are remaining and I'm going to make an X. And then we're going to set the pumpkin in the center of the X, but we're going to position it in a way so that everything's kind of alternating around the other strip. And then we'll go ahead and do 1 strip and stuff that into the hole there, and then we'll do the 3rd strip. And for me, I didn't need to use any hot glue to keep this in place because when I stuffed that into the pumpkin here, it really held nicely, but if you felt like you needed to do a little bit of hot glue in there, you could do that as well. Now here is what my pumpkin is looking like right now. For my stem, there's a lot of different things you can do, but I'm just going to use one of these little wood pieces that I had from the Dollar Tree and stain it with my Waverly antique wax. Another idea would be using a branch. You could also use a little wine cork if you have one of those. Now, once that has dried, I just went ahead and inserted this into my pumpkin. Now, I did not use any hot glue on this, but you could totally use hot glue if you needed to. I just love how this cozy pumpkin turns out. The lace gives it such a softer look, but if you didn't want that look, as I said earlier, you could forget the lace and go more of a concrete look for your pumpkin. Let me know what you prefer in the comments below. Do you like a softer fall look, or do you like the concrete and more modern look? So you may may be wondering why I have these little eggs out from Easter. Well, I'm going to turn these little eggs into some acorns. So I'm taking some of my scrap fabric and I'm going to cut this into a 5x5 square. It doesn't need to be perfect, just a rough 5x5 square. So we're going to grab one of these styrofoam eggs, and if you notice when you flip the egg over, there is a little circle on the bottom of the egg, and that is what we're going to actually use for the top of our acorn. And I'm starting out by just making sure that my fabric's going to wrap around the egg just fine, and that 5x5 piece works really well. So we're going to grab some hot glue, and this may be where if you are sensitive to hot glue, you may want to wear some heat gloves. And there's no real perfect way of doing this. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to wrap the fabric around and hot glue it the best that I can up the top of that egg. Now, you're going to have a little bit at the top that is not going to be completely covered, and that is fine because we're going to make a little hood for our acorn. So just do the best that you can with the hot glue and putting that around the egg. Now, once you have that hot glue and the fabric around the egg, I'm going to go ahead and look for something to make a stem with. And this is what I ended up using. I'm just taking some pit berries wire and I'm taking the pit berries off. And I folded this into fourths to make a really thick, kind of wiry looking stem. And it kind of looks like it's a twisted piece of wood. It's really kind of cool how it turns out. And this, since it has wire in it, is going to be able to easily stick into that piece of foam in the egg underneath the fabric. So once you have put your little stem into your egg, you're going to grab another type of fabric or burlap or another ribbon to make the little hat on top of the acorn. So I had this scrap fabric in my stash, and this is a really fuzzy but bumpy looking fabric. And I was able to cut a strip, and it was about 12 inches in length. So one of these 12-inch strips, if you cut that in half, would be enough to be able to do for each one of these acorns. So I just folded this in half and I cut it in half, and it was about 6 inches for each little strip around each acorn. So after I did a quick fit check with this piece of fabric, I went ahead and laid the strip of fabric out on my table. And I found that this was an easy way to add the hot glue. I just did a strip of hot glue along the bottom, and then I kind of rolled it around the acorn. So it just kind of stuck there at the bottom, and then we're just going to fold it up around the stem that we've already inserted into the acorn and just add some hot glue as we go along to get everything in place the way we would like it. And now for our final touch, I am going to use a piece of twine here, and I'm burning off any of those little fuzzies on this piece of twine so that I can make a cute little bow to add to the top of our acorn. And to attach our bow, I'm just going to use a little bead of hot glue at the very top of the stem and attach the bow. Now I'm going to repeat this step and make a few more acorns with some different fabrics so that I can fill a fun basket with acorns. These would also work great on a tiered tray or as a shelf sitter to decorate something you already have out. So here is my 4 little acorns all nestled up in the cute basket. Another thing you can add to the basket is just a few pine cones to give it a little bit more filler. So I'm going to do that as well, just so you can see what that looks like. And I just love how these acorns turn out. They are just so cozy and fun. Let me know what you think of these acorns in the comments below. Grab one of these adorable pumpkins from the Dollar Tree and let's remove all of that tinsel. And wow, now we have the best little form to add some cozy yarn to. Before we get started, I am going to grab this little brown ribbon and I'm just going to make a new hanger that's a little more neutral for my pumpkin. And I like to do this before I add anything to my form. Next, I'm going to grab some chunky yarn, and I did get this yarn at Walmart. And I'm going to start out by just tying a small little knot to my form at the very bottom of my pumpkin, and then we're going to go ahead and start wrapping that yarn around the pumpkin. And because of the hooks on this pumpkin, I didn't need to add any hot glue. But if you have any trouble, adding a little hot glue would be a great way to make sure everything stays into place. Now, while we have a quick moment, I want to tell you all about this fun playlist I'm a part of, Cozy Inspiration. I host this every month with Lowly D Creations. Our guest host this month is the talented Alicia from Lavender and Lace. This playlist is all about cozy inspirations. It happens on the 8th of the month every month, and there's a new theme for the inspiration each and every month. Links for these hosts and the amazing playlist is down in my description box below. So please go check them out and give them some love. Thank you for watching, and back to our video. So once we have our pumpkin completely wrapped, I am going to leave the stem empty and I'm going to flip this pumpkin over, and taking that yarn, I'm going to weave it into the back of the form here and tie another knot. If you wanted it to be more secure, you could add some hot glue, but I found I didn't need that for this project. And if you have any extra stragglers, you can just tuck them into your form on the back side because nobody will see them. So now that our pumpkin is complete, let's go ahead and start making the stem. For the stem, I'm going to be using some of this Dollar Tree rope, and this is just some that I had in my stash. And I like to burn off any of the little extra frays here, so that's what you see me doing with the lighter. Now, once I am satisfied with my rope, I am going to take this and wrap this around the stem. And to do this, I did need some hot glue because this took a little bit of effort to wrap. It's not quite as easy to wrap as the yarn, but it is fairly easy. It's just a little bit tighter that you have to wrap this around. And be careful around the little hanger. Make sure you have that pulled out so you can still hang your pumpkin. And when you get to the top of your stem, you're going to have to use some hot glue and fold that rope right over the top of the form so you can cover all of that plastic. Now with the rope, you do have to hold this there for a few minutes to make sure that everything sticks. But once everything is there and the way you would like it, you can trim all of the excess off. Now, at first, I thought that I was going to keep that extra little bit of the rope hanging on my pumpkin. And then I thought, well, maybe I can do a little bow, but I decided that I didn't like any of that. So I did just trim all of this off, and I decided that I was going to add some different embellishments. So for the embellishments that I chose, I did use this little pick that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I just snipped off one of the blue flowers. I'm also going to be using a little pine cone that was from a different pick and a little blue colored leaf. And we're going to go ahead and just glue these to the top of our pumpkin. And once we're satisfied with our embellishments, we could just leave this pumpkin just as it is and hang it from the little hook. However, there is another way we could hang this. I have one of these generic wreaths that I love having in my stash, and we're going to take this pumpkin and we're going to put that on top of the wreath. And then I'm taking that hook and I'm going to actually put it over the top of the hook of the wreath hook that's on here. And then it sits just in the center of this wreath. And it's something that I can change out with different seasons with different center pieces. And because I have a longer hook on this, I did have to tie my hooks together, but I can untie these really easily. Now let's go ahead and flip this wreath over and fluff everything, and we have a beautiful wreath for the season. And if you enjoyed this cozy pumpkin, please consider hitting that like or subscribe button. It really helps my channel grow. Thank you. Let's make some cozy apple maple cookies. These are absolutely delicious. We're going to start out by just slicing an apple really thin. And you're going to be slicing 2 apples. Let's add that to a bowl. We're going to be taking some brown sugar, cardamom, and cinnamon and tossing our apples. Once they are well blended, go ahead and set this dish aside. Now let's go ahead and cream our butter and sugar together. We're going to be using sugar and brown sugar for this recipe. I'm just going to add all of my ingredients to my mixing bowl. I'm going to lift the handle up and then turn this on and let this cream for about 2 minutes. I want to say a quick thank you to my husband here because this was a 2-person effort to film this video. Also, this is one of his recipes, so thank you, Jim, for allowing us to use your recipe today in our video. Now, once that is blended well, we are going to take 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 2 eggs, and 1/4 cup of maple syrup. And we're going to add all of these wet ingredients to our mixer. And don't worry about writing everything down. I will have the recipe and the directions at the end of the video where you can take a screen grab. Also, I will include this in my Lady Red crafting newsletter, so if you haven't signed up yet, the link will be down in my description box below, so click on that link and sign up today. Next, we're going to grab 2 3/4 cup flour, 1 teaspoon baking soda, and 1/2 teaspoon salt. We're going to add these dry ingredients to a separate bowl and mix them well. Now let's go ahead and gradually add the dry ingredients to our mixing bowl. And for me, I like to do this in batches, so I did a little bit of the flour mixture, and then once that blended in a little bit, I went ahead and added some more. And now we combine for 1 to 2 minutes until it is well blended. Now let's grab a parchment-lined cookie sheet and add some dough balls. For these cookies, I'm doing about a 1-inch dough ball, and I'm going to be adding 12 to a sheet pan. Now let's go grab those marinating apple slices. We're going to be adding 2 slices to the top of each one of these dough balls. Now don't worry that the apples are bigger than the dough ball. The dough underneath will spread out as the cookies bake, and you'll have a beautiful cookie when we're done. Now we're going to add these into a 350-degree oven and let them bake from 9 to 11 minutes. This is what they look like halfway through. And when they are done, they are going to be beautiful and golden brown. These cookies are absolutely yummy and totally scream cozy fall. Let me know what you think about this recipe in the comments below. And here is an opportunity to take a screen grab. And some fun variations on this recipe. You could sub the apples with nectarines or with pears. Just add a little bit of cornstarch to your marinade. I had so much fun crafting with you today, and I hope you found a little cozy inspiration for your own home. If you're new here, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future projects. And don't forget to sign up for my monthly newsletter. I share extra inspiration there, along with some fun giveaways just for subscribers. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. And as always, please remember, craft more, stress less.